Frazier Glenn Cross, the jury coming back with that verdict moments ago. They say he is guilty of capital murder.
Of course, that making him eligible for the death penalty, but in the state of Kansas, there are many that feel that the ones who are sentenced to death in Kansas end up sitting on death row for years and years and years. There are currently 9 on death row, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of sentencing there is, but he is eligible with that verdict. He is eligible for the death penalty.
And of course, he's also had a series of health problems. He may not make it to even face the death penalty or spend much time in prison for that matter. At one point, he said in the past many times that he has had health problems.
And that was one of the things he said right away, was one of his reasons for doing it was because if he was going out, he was going to go out doing this thing for his quote-unquote people, something to that effect. You've been looking into this and some different elements that pertain to this case. What have you found?
Yeah, in regards to what's next for him and talking about the death penalty, we know when it comes to capital murder charges that is included in that. So we took a look at some of those numbers, and we did find that right now 9 inmates are currently serving time on death row. But it's been actually 4 years since somebody's actually been added to that list. Now, you may be wondering, is there an alternative to the death penalty when it comes to these types of sentences? And there certainly is. The only other option is to serve a life sentence without the possibility of parole. That's according to the Kansas Department of Corrections. Right now, there are 16 people who have been convicted of capital murder, but they are currently serving time in prison. So now the law does prohibit the death penalty from being imposed on anyone under the age of 18 or for a person who may be mentally impaired. But while there are less than a dozen people on death row right now, a person has yet to be put to death since 1965. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from here, if he gets that death sentence or if he just gets life without parole.
Right. One of the things is that sometimes you have people who others think maybe they're not mentally fit, but that's not ever really come up in this case as far as defense for Cross, for himself. So it'll be interesting to see if anything is said now.
And our own Amy Holly was in the courtroom, has been in the courtroom throughout much of this trial. She was in the courtroom moments ago when this verdict was read. Amy, what can you tell us about what just happened?
What a whirlwind it's been in just the last few minutes. 7 men, 5 women. Of course, deciding the fate of a white supremacist in just 2 hours. Today, the Johnson County jury decided Frazier Glenn Cross is guilty on all counts. Guilty for capital murder, for shooting and killing Reed Underwood, just a 14-year-old boy, his grandson, Dr. William Corcoran, whose family was in the courtroom for this verdict today. They said they wanted to see it. They're not talking to us at all today, though. And for the shooting death of Terry Lamano, a mother who was outside of the Village Shalom Care Center in Overland Park, Kansas, April 13th, 2014. Guilty as charged on all counts today. And then, of course, for shooting in an occupied Jewish community center in Overland Park, specifically at the White Theater, that was filled at that time full of teenagers who were there auditioning for a $10,000 teen talent show. So it was very busy that day. Take a look at some of the video from earlier in the day. They now must decide, these jurors, whether to put Frazier Glenn Cross to death. The 74-year-old Cross, he pleaded guilty to all counts, pleaded not guilty rather to all counts, even though every single day of his trial, including today, he said he committed the murders and that he even felt exhilaration, like a ton of bricks had been lifted off of his shoulders after those shootings. All 3 victims, by the way, were Christian. He told the jurors earlier today that they too would feel good. They would feel like patriots against the Jewish people creating white genocide if they too found him not guilty.
And Amy, what was his reaction while this verdict was being read, if you could see?
I apologize. I wasn't able to hear you. I thought that we were going to go to some sound bites of those of Frazier Glenn Cross. Some family members, I said, were sitting in the courtroom today listening to these verdicts today. They will be talking after the death penalty phase, which of course is the next phase that these Johnson County jurors are going to have to decide. They will have to sit and listen to a little mini trial of sorts, both sides back and forth, giving their versions on whether to put Frazier Glenn Cross, 74-year-old white supremacist, to death. Mike, Krista?
All right, Amy, we are actually getting word that the penalty phase has been set for 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, so we'll continue to follow this. Amy's done a tremendous job. She was anchoring that day when this all happened on that Sunday and has covered this. She tweeted throughout the day, so if you want to get caught up, it's a great place to sort of look through that. But nonetheless, family, we know, were in a waiting room. They were watching and waiting and hoping for a verdict today, and so now we can only imagine what that room of family members is like for those who were killed that day. And it'll be interesting to see what's next for Mr. Cross.
Well, some relief for them, I would hope, now that this is coming to an end. And we do have video now of the verdict being read in the courtroom just moments ago. Take a look.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of capital murder as charged in count 1.
I think the fat lady just sang, "Seek high."
Count 3.
So the comment, you just heard him make an anti-Semitic comment when the verdict was read, and it kind of makes it all come full circle in this really sort of awful way, because remember, there was footage of him when he was being taken into custody on the day of the shootings in that elementary school parking lot, yelling anti-Semitic comments and determined to kill Jewish people, which he did not succeed at, killed several Christians, and continuing that comment here today as the verdict was read.
Yeah, he certainly made no secret of his racist views throughout his life, part of the Ku Klux Klan back as far as the 80s. So certainly not a surprise, this verdict today. All right, we're going to stay on top of this for you. We will continue to watch it. More coverage when we come back.